Deltarune has no shortage of mysteries, from the narrator at the beginning of the game potentially being Gaster, to the eggs that we get from the forgotten man behind the tree, to the shadow crystals that we've been collecting throughout every chapter. There really is no shortage of mystery in this game. And yet, I feel that I've come pretty close this time to not solving, but kind of getting an idea of something that's going to happen with not just one, but a whole family of characters in Deltarune. You see, I think the Holiday family is outright doomed. I think that by one way or another, every single member of this family is gonna end up in a much worse place than they all started the game, with the exception of maybe one, but we'll get into that. And so I just want to present this formally as something that I want to refer to affectionately as holiday break theory. And it's gonna detail every single member of the Holiday family and how I think they're being set up to either die or face some horrible fate. And so I think there's no better place to start than with the member of the Holiday family that we know the best, Noelle. And while I don't want to comb over every line of dialogue Noelle has had, because there sure are a lot, I think there are some key details in Noelle's character and beyond that we can look at to try and discern what her fate might be. And yes, I think both in the standard and weird route, Noelle will face the same fate. It just might be under different circumstances. You see, Noelle is essentially the main catalyst for the weird route. She is the one who we, the player, are trying to influence with, the thorn ring and probably in the future the twisted blade that is in the data of the game. But essentially, we are looking to use things within Deltarune to control her from out in the real world here as the player. And part of that is forcing her to get stronger and learn how to use and wield her ice magic even better than she was initially able to when she was just able to use like ice shock. And that culminates obviously in her usage of the Snowgrave spell. Now, in Chapter 3, we learn that there may be some dire consequences in the future for enacting control over Noelle. In the secret board of Tenna's retro minigame, we get to control, alongside Mini Chris, a little Noelle. And while it's not explicitly stated Noelle is the character we're controlling, it's a character wearing white robes who uses ice magic and utilizes feminine pronouns. And to me, that's a clear giveaway that this character, while not Noelle explicitly, is meant to represent the character in the prophecy that is basically one-to-one with Noelle. And in this game, when you progress far enough, you actually end up using up this white-robed character as if there's some consumable item in a game, and the text "she was used up" appears on screen, along with the character disappearing. And so, to me, that tells me that at some point in the story of Deltarune, Noelle is going to be used up, and it's likely going to be on the Snowgrave route, because that was the clear parallel that the mystery board was showing, a route where we have the white-robed figure use their ice magic and get stronger and stronger, and, there's a blue bird that gets frozen, which is a clear parallel to Birdly, and then ultimately that character gets used up and disappears. But that's the Snowgrave route. it seems to be, and this is not a confirmed detail for the Snowgrave route. I should also say that the video game in Tenna's, in the Dark World, I'm pretty sure it's based off of, or it's some twisted version of Dragon Blazers, which is loosely based off the prophecy. So, like, we can take certain details from it, but we have to take everything with a grain of salt at the end of the day. Um, when it comes to the standard route or pacifist route, recruit route, whatever you want to call it, I think that Noelle is going to die or be sacrificed in some way, shape, or form on this route as well. And this is kind of where, for Noelle at least, it gets into a little bit more theory crafting. While in the regular route, we don't equip the Thorn Ring explicitly, I think that I still want to talk about what the Thorn Ring might implicate for Noelle. Because during Chapter 2, between the Thorn Ring and the way Noelle is strung up by Queen, there are some parallels, and before I get into it, I must note that I am in no way, shape, or form a religious person who is knowledgeable of different scripture, but she draws clear parallels to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ in Christianity. And the representation would imply that Noelle is supposed to represent a savior or someone who is going to be sacrificed for the good of all people. Now that is a monumental stretch. I think that the symbolism is purposeful. The implication that I'm drawing from it is what I feel is the stretch. But I think that when you combine it with the prophecy, you can start to maybe try to piece together a picture that says that Noelle, even not on the Snowgrave route, her fate might be sealed. In the prophecy panels in Chapter 4, we have basically the final part of the prophecy, which is saying the world is going to end, and to save the world there's only one way. But then obviously Susie breaks the panel because she gets so upset at what she reads. I think that it's a prophecy depicting Noelle sacrificing herself for the world, the good of monster and humankind, and ultimately driving away or banishing the angels, heaven, whatever have you, but sacrificing herself to save the day. And there's some hints that we'll get into later that Noelle might be a parallel for the protagonist in Dragon Blazers, and a cliche at the end of a lot of RPGs is a main character sacrificing themselves for the good of the world. So I feel that this could be plausible. I feel that maybe there's going to be a way through Susie's intervention where Noelle's fate is avoided, but if the game is just to play out on the track that it's on, I think Noelle's just kind of doomed. So, pivoting from Noelle to the other one of the daughters in the Holiday family, we have December Holiday. Now, December is probably one of the more mysterious characters in the game, in that we never, outside of flashbacks, we never actually see her in-game. And the flashback I'm referring to is when Tenna flashes back to the holidays and the Dreamers watching TV together. Des's silhouette can be seen. And I suppose there's also a little deer symbol in the games that represents Des, but that's besides the point. We never see Des. Des is missing, and it's theorized that Des is either dead or, gone missing somewhere where we can't find her through normal gameplay. And while I won't speak too much about the fact that she's missing, because let's be honest, I mean, not only are there probably hundreds or thousands of videos that talk about the disappearance of December Holiday, I think that it's enough content to warrant its own video. There's so much to talk about there. No, I want to talk about what may have happened to her in terms of her fate in the future and in terms of her fate in the past. without getting into kind of where is she on a broad scale. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'm sorry, but I'll try to clarify. So in, I think, chapter 2, there's a reference that Susie makes to Dragon Blazers where she talks about um, the part where the protagonist's sister gets cursed. And in the Japanese localization of the game, the text that is used to talk about sister, because in Japan, I think in Japanese rather, when you refer to sister or brother, you say it in such a way that it denotes older or younger, I believe. And the word that's used is older. So, Toby's very, the guy basically knows Japanese from what I know. He's very involved in this process and purposeful in guiding the localization process, I would assume. And so older sister is very purposeful. And what I take that to mean is that this line is referring to December holiday. And the line itself is referring to when your sister gets cursed. So in my mind, with Dragon Blazers being a reference or parallel to the prophecy in some way, shape, or form, but not a direct translation of it, we can assume that something happened to Des that is adjacent to a curse, whether she was locked away, killed, or maybe cursed. Something bad happened to her, and I think that in some way, shape, or form, it has led to her demise as characters knew her. So, like, the Des that people knew is effectively dead. Now, people do theorize that Des is the Knight. My only rebuttal to this in the context of the Dragon Blazers quote is when Susie talks about the sister getting cursed in Dragon Blazers, she also references that the sister's stats got worse in the game. So obviously the Roaring Knight is one of, if not the strongest, like, character we've seen so far outside of like a Titan or the Old Man, if he's as peak as we think. It's likely that whatever happened to Des didn't lower her stats, so to speak, but actually made her stronger. And getting stronger is, of course, a theme in the Holiday family with someone like Noelle, so it's not too hard to believe that Des, similar to her sister, met a terrible fate that caused her to get stronger. So that's December. Honestly, I think we kind of have known that Des experienced some kind of horrible fate before we even booted up Deltarune, and so I don't think I need to spend too much more time talking about her. So I kind of want to move on to Rudy, who, similarly to Des, there's just not too much to talk about with him, mostly because, like, it's kind of obvious that he could die. He has, like, I mean, he's in a hospital, he is bedridden in a hospital, and he can only get up once in a while to go to, like, service, and then back down he goes. So the guy's in rough shape, and his lack of a presence in Undertale tells me that he might be dying. And this, okay, I think I just, like, remembered something. Was there not some, like, Undertale alarm clock thing that basically says that Rudy died? Am I misremembering that? Like, that he dies in Undertale, right? I may just be spouting BS. Like, this may be pure BS that is coming out of nowhere. You guys will let me know. I trust that. If an Undertale alarm clock that confirms that Rudy in Undertale died is not a real thing, please correct me in the comments. But if it is a real thing, feel free to talk about that in the comments. But if anything, it's more evidence to why he's most likely gonna bite the dust, or become the dust rather. But yeah, I think Rudy's cooked. Some people think he's the Knight. I think that there's some details that could suggest he's the Knight, but even if he is, I don't think that changes his fate. I think Rudy is 100% cooked. Okay, this is the difficult one. So Carol, I'm gonna need to do a little throwback to my first theory video to explain why I think Carol is doomed. So, for those who have watched it, which is a few hundred people, not a lot, but a few people have watched it. Um, I speculated that Politics Bear of all NPCs, is the major detail that foretells Carol's fate in Deltarune. You see, back in Undertale, if you go to Snowdin and you talk to Politics Bear specifically mentions that Snowdin has no mayor. And I think that's significant to Carol because Snowdin is very clearly a Christmas themed town. It has Christmas lights on the sign. There's like a Christmas tree with presents in the middle. It's covered in snow. Um, it's very clear that there has been some influence of the Holiday family there in the past. How else would it snow in the underground? If that was a detail that got revealed at some point, please don't come after me for that. I'm just speculating that at some point the Holiday family had some sort of presence in Snowdin, and Politics Bear stating that there's no mayor in Snowdin tells me that they have either left or that they have died, or are missing otherwise in Undertale. Um, so going to Deltarune, where Politics Bear literally works at Town Hall in the same building that the mayor works in, it kind of makes me feel that there is now some weight to where he's going from there's no mayor in this Christmas themed town to then going and working with a Christmas themed mayor. That tells me, maybe something's going to happen to Carol. And as my reversion theory predicted, well, not predicted, but it predicts, because it's obviously not confirmed, things are reverting back to the way they were in Undertale in some aspects, and so I think Carol's gonna bite the dust. I think that Carol is trying to interfere with the prophecy directly, which is why she's plotting with Chris to open dark fountains and such. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the prophecy might mention Noelle dying to save everyone, and I could see Carol, in her fear of losing another daughter, she might be trying to circumvent the events of the prophecy, and I could see that biting her and causing her own demise. But we'll see. We'll see. I think that it's not a stretch to say that the Holiday family is going down a rough path, and I don't know. I don't see it getting too much better for them, but I'm interested in seeing if you guys have any thoughts or reactions to this theory. If you think if you think it could be right, if you think it's dead wrong, and our influence in Deltarune is going to fix everything for the Holiday family, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing what you guys have to say in the comments section. Feel free to let me know. But for now, I'm out.